I think we also need to talk about the saddest story in F1 right now. And that is the travesty that is Williams Racing.
I don't think it's sad. I think they got what's coming to them.
And speaking of getting the party started.
For the victory lap, though. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I should overcome, what for? Train in the trees, please walk my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands, and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Switch gears, we keeping haters in the rear. As the blood, sweat, and tears, and my goal so near. I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear. And today, we break through. 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 And today, we break through.
Remember, folks, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. Unless, of course, you're allergic to lemons or you find the taste gritty and unpleasant, in which case, life really has dealt you a bad hand this time around. Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Barie, and it is episode 30 of the Gridiron Podcast, the only podcast known to man where we cover both football and Formula One exclusively. This week, going to be a heavy Formula One week, because if you hadn't noticed, the NFL kind of quiet right now as it gets ready for the NFL draft. Again, I'm Sean Barie. If you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter, up in your left-hand corner, that is Nick Shook. Holding it down in the land, Cleveland, Ohio, and then up in the right-hand corner, it is Katie Caldwell holding it down north of the border in the great white north, great true north, strong and free in Kimberley, British Columbia. It's Katie Caldwell.
You got the locations right. Like you must have listened to the last podcast and been like, I'm not going to let Katie flame me for leaving out Cleveland, so I'm going to get everybody's geographic locations down.
My intros are getting better. They're getting stronger, I got to say.
Where are you located, Sean?
Oh, I'm located in, well, it's not sunny Tampa Bay right now because it's nighttime while we're recording this podcast. But yes, if you're watching and you can't see my shirt, I'm a Florida man. No, we're not going to hit it.
I can't play.
Oh, you can't play the audio? Okay.
I can if you want me to, but it's going to basically be like too loud. But, sure, why not?
I am Florida man. I am Florida man. I am Florida man. I
And
am
it
Florida man. I am Florida man. Perfect. I love it.
Our only drop, but what a drop.
No, we have
It's
more,
a great
like this one. And we also
I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Katie. How are we doing this week, guys?
Great. I'm sunburned. I saw the eclipse totality live. I used my glasses safely. And I got a sunburn.
Nick Shook, so white that he gets sunburnt during an eclipse.
Okay. It was sunny the rest of the day while wearing a hat and these. So, Katie.
What was the question?
Speechless.
How are we?
How are you?
We're technically alive. We're doing our best.
Let me double check that real quick. Okay, I at least got one beat.
Yeah. That's all we can really ask for.
Nick's checking his pulse.
My heart's racing because I'm so excited for this show.
So excited. Guys, it's episode 30. How have we made it this far?
Wow, look at that.
What do you mean how we made it this far? Because we're the three best friends that anybody could have, and we love football and Formula One, and it is a great time, Sean, to discuss Formula One coming off of a race that we all witnessed last weekend.
Did we all witness it? Because I might have fallen asleep around lap 30, 35. It was in Japan, guys, on the other side of the world. Didn't even start till 1 a.m., so you could forgive me for maybe snoozing off.
Since then, you do an F1 podcast.
Look, I saw the first lap antics with Williams and Daniel Ricciardo, and then everything kind of started to settle in, and my couch is comfy, and I had a couple of old fashions in me, and I kind of just snoozed off a little bit. But yeah, still an exciting race.
I'm not going to let you walk on that. No, I'm not going to let you walk on that because you roasted me for disappearing during the Australia race because but
the Australia race started an entire hour earlier, Nick.
Yeah, and I was also multiple pitchers of beer deeper than you were.
Old fashions are stronger than beer. Relax.
I mean, if we're talking about volume, yes.
Yeah, yes.
That's what you took out of that?
Possibly.
Thank you, Katie. Once again, rivalry continues.
Who said I didn't also have beer? It was a great day. Great day. Final Four was on. Sue me, all right? Sorry. By the time the race started, I had, watched 2 Final Four games. This is getting off topic.
No, anyway, actually, I do want to point out before you go any further, not to interrupt you, because I'm not going to do that all show. I will probably
You're going to. I know it's okay. You do it all the time.
As is the case, I usually interrupt you at the end. But I do want you to know the rivalry is a hot topic. It's one thing that really is attracting new eyeballs to the show. I just want you two to know as you continue to butt heads. Let's not manufacture this. Let it be natural. But I also would like the record to show that our best performing reel in the history of the show was the one most recently posted concerning your rivalry. So, don't pull any punches, guys.
Well, let the record also show Sean's one of my favorite humans on the planet. So it comes from an honest, wonderful place.
I'm honored to be a part of that 5-person group. 2 of them on this screen right now.
Okay, but talking about the race, Sean, you missed an actually good race.
There we go. Okay, so I've watched the highlights back and everything, and I even watched a replay of it. Yeah, this was a race where we kind of got back into almost what we thought the season was going to be, which is Max Verstappen dominating. Sergio Perez has started to make some serious waves, guys. He has started to run his race. He has started to do really good. He finishes second on the podium. And then you've got Team All Hot, MVP, Carlos Sainz. Yeah. Take a bow, Katie. Take a bow. Finishing in P3. Every race he has started this season, he has finished on the podium. Only got to do that. Max Verstappen hasn't done it. Sergio Perez hasn't done it. Only got to do it, Carlos Sainz. So that's your podium. But it went Red Bull, Ferrari, and then McLaren. That's exactly what we thought we were going to get at the start of the season, and it took until now, the 5th race in, where we got everything just falling into line. A little bit boring, so I hope that's not the case going forward, which it probably won't be, but your thoughts, guys?
Isn't it the 4th race?
Yeah. Thank you, Katie. If you didn't do it, I was going to.
Oh, it is the 4th race. Math. Guys, I'm a Florida man. Math isn't our strong suit down here. I also have a journalism degree, not our strong suit, Nick.
Hey. you opened Pandora's box, man.
All right. Your thoughts on the race, guys. We'll get into the individual performances in a second, but since you guys stayed up for the whole race, your thoughts.
Ladies first, Katie.
I thought it was a good race. I thought there were a ton of really fun overtakes, and Japan isn't typically known for a ton of overtaking, but there were different strategies, and Ferrari's really good, and they don't screw it up, which is very weird, and I'm still adjusting to that. I was really entertained by this race. I thought it was like a 7 or an 8 out of 10, which I don't have a lot of those in the Max dominance era. So it's nice to be able to appreciate what he's doing, but then also turn on a race and actually be watching it and not just staring at my phone board by lap 30 or before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was being generous.
Katie, you made a face at Sean when he made the Sergio Perez comments, and I would like you to
I forget that you guys could see me.
We're making faces, Katie. He said don't manufacture the rivalry. And I feel like that's what you're doing here.
I feel like we all need to take a step back and remember the conversations that we were having about Checo this time last season, which we were saying, is there a true title fight? Man, Red Bull 1-2 all the time, and then Checo's winning, and I feel like I'm starting to see that again, and that's great. I love it when Checo drives well. I'm cheering for him as a driver. I'm still cognizant of what happened last season, that we were having a lot of these same conversations, and then it fell off so hard where he couldn't even get out of Q1 in qualifying a lot of races. I want to put a bow on it when the whole season is over, because we've kind of seen it time and time again where he has a really, really strong start and then he falls off so hard. That's why I made a face.
I understand that. You do have to remember, yeah, you're right. He basically fell off a cliff at the second half of last season. To be just a disclaimer, no one on this podcast was seriously considering Sergio Perez a title contender last season, right?
Maybe it was 2 years ago where it was tight early, and we were talking about that at that time. We were discussing Sergio might catch.
No,
Max, that
was last year because he won 2
season.
races early, and I didn't think anyone was actually taking that seriously because Red Bull would never let it happen. Even after the Japanese Grand Prix, human version of Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars, Dr. Helmut Marko from Red Bull, even went on record as saying, maybe he's just figured something out. Maybe he's, found his own race. He's not focusing on Max as much, or maybe he's racing for a new contract. That's pretty telling when one of the team bosses says, yeah, maybe he's just trying to, put some good tape out there for other teams interested. Because it's clearly not Red Bull at this point, despite what he does.
Yeah, and then Helmut went on to make some regrettable comments about Sergio later in the year when he struggled. Many regrettable comments.
No, this was after Japan.
Oh, I'm talking. Well,
this is what he said after Japan.
All right, I see what you're saying. Well, yeah, because I feel like his contract expires after this year.
Correct.
That seat is not going to go to him. I feel like he's at the end of his rope. He could probably find another seat somewhere. I mean, for God's sake, Daniel Ricciardo still has a seat. And that's within the same team largely. I mean, obviously it's VCarb, it's RB, but it's still Red Bull. But it's not going to be with Red Bull. I think we're all kind of looking at what the future could hold if Max stays there, which we all anticipate, I think, at this point for him too. You got the free seat at Mercedes, but you're also potentially looking at a free seat at Red Bull, even though it's not as open right now as Mercedes is. And I think we all see the dream pairing. We see Carlos Sainz teaming up with Max. And
why would you do that though? If you're Red Bull, why would you do that?
Because you're inviting domination.
They're getting that now. They're getting that now with just one guy. Car.
Yeah,
right?
So let's get two.
Why would you invite a Nico Rosberg into your Lewis Hamilton-led team? Okay, why are you asking for a repeat of 2016? Times are good, man. Things worked out between Lewis and Valtteri because Valtteri couldn't legitimately catch him. Things are good between Max and Sergio.
That's not how competitors think, Sean. They don't stop at this is good enough. They want more. Competitors are the greediest individuals on the planet because it's never enough for them. And it will never be enough for Red Bull. They want to win every race 1-2. And if Max doesn't win the title, or if Max doesn't win one specific race, so be it. He's still our best driver and we'll still give him preference and he'll still win the title if we're winning every race 1-2. That is the ultimate sign of dominance, is being able to finish the line in damn near formation. Why not go after him? Red Bull fans like myself, dreaming of Carlos Sainz being in that car after he's still podium perfect, by the way, which you already mentioned, but we'll bring it up again. That is the dream. And that is what I fully expect them to seek in the offseason. So long, Checo. It's fun to see you reclaim some of your form, and it'll probably get you a job next year, but that's about all it's worth right now.
Speaking of the dream, Yuki Tsunoda, hometown boy, had the dream weekend, scored a point, right? In the RB, and that donkey of a car brings it home. P10 beats out Lance Stroll. Lance can't catch him even on softs on the last stint, and Yuki Tsunoda gives the home crowd something to cheer for, brings home a point for his home country, and a very important point for Visa Cash App RB Formula One team.
Good job. You rattled it off.
Thank
now
you.
Do stake F1.
Stake F1 Sauber. Team kick Sauber.
There you go. Nice.
I've had practice.
Yes. I really wish that I had cut the clip of Lance Stroll complaining about the car, and maybe I'll put it in post, because that is
slow on the straights.
I can't.
I did my best impression.
What do you say? Unbelievable or something? It's unbelievable.
It's so funny listening to a billionaire's son do that in a car. There's something so poetic about that situation. It was one of the funniest radio messages I've heard in a very long time.
I didn't know
for it to be Lance Stroll of everyone.
Like I think about Lewis's team radio clips, and it's like him breathing heavily into the mic. I didn't know that you could actually get your voice to do that. Driving a car.
I'd like to thank everyone back at the factory.
How are we on the tire? So the rear tires are going. Like, it's gonna sound terrible for the audio listeners, but that, like, then Lance is just over there like complaining, like he's sitting at a bar with his friends. Like, that's the guy you hear across the bar when it's already too loud and you shouldn't be able to hear him, and that's the guy you instantly hate. So it's only fitting that he drove like crap. And Fernando, his teammate, outdrove him by 1.5 miles
by a minute.
Race.
60 seconds from P5
Jesus.
to P11. His teammate beat him in equal machinery by a minute. A 42-year-old.
Oh, he's an ageless wonder. We all know that. And he's also one of the leading members of the team. All hot. So, Sean, I hate to say this, and I don't want to redirect it at this point, but I'm going to, because we're talking about all the positive things right now. My man, Oscar.
Yeah.
Oscar. What happened? He's doing a great job of holding him off. He's holding off. He's just holding him off. One lap by another. George Russell's in his sights, but he's holding him off. And then, right before the TV didn't even get a good shot of it. And they just go, he goes wide. Gives up the spot in the last lap. What pain, Sean? Did you feel any pain when you were asleep? Were you stirred from your dreams? Your old fashioned
yes,
dreams?
I woke up and thought, Oscar's going to come home P8. That's unacceptable. He's still. I think the problem that he has, and it's not so much a problem right now, is he has the 1 lap pace, right? He's sticking close to Lando in qualifying. He's sticking close to Lando in race pace, which is what Daniel Ricciardo couldn't do when he was at McLaren. But he's still learning how to keep those tires fresh in a Formula One car. Like, those are the little details that you can't get in the lower levels. And keep in mind, he took a year off. So he's all learning this stuff in new cars. I think it's still learning for him. But in year 2, as good as he was last year, gets a couple of podiums, wins a race, technically a sprint race. No one at McLaren is going to feel bad about the performances he's put in. It's just, there's still a little bit of a learning curve. Like, you remember, he is just in his second year. We're all impressed so much because he had such a good rookie season, okay? And he's close to Lando. He is very close to Lando. So in the future, this is probably one of the best, if not the best, driver pairing in Formula One, unless Carlos goes to Red Bull. But it's going to be one of those pairings we look at and go, okay, either one. It's 1A and 1B. So I don't take too much into it. It was a bad weekend.
Do you get the vibes? And Katie, I would love your take on this.
Good vibes only. This is a good vibes only podcast. You're
going to be on the opposite side of me. You'll probably spin this positively, but do you get the vibes? This is how I used to feel about LeBron and the Cavs when he came back. And they lost in 2015, and I just sat back and thought, man, like, Kyrie got hurt, Kevin Love got hurt. It was LeBron and Matthew Dellavedova, and they still battled their asses off and ultimately lost. We're never going to get over the hump. We're always going to be the bridesmaid, never the bride. Do you feel like that's McLaren's trajectory right now, or is there an opportunity for them to maybe flip the script and, I don't know, finally win a freaking race?
Katie, go ahead.
It's so hard to say with Red Bull doing what they're doing right now, and it's hard to look at anything long term with the huge regulation change. So I feel like these next couple of years, it's hard not to just look at Red Bull's doing and feel that they're going to go at least 1, not necessarily 1, 2. But with McLaren, like, the jump that they made was really exciting and really impressive. But I'm still just so set on what Red Bull's doing, which, by the way, at the end of F1, we have to go back to talking about Yuki. We did not talk nearly long enough about Yuki. So we do have to go back to that. But I just don't know how Red Bull, like, they're so dominant right now. It's hard to look at any other team other than maybe Ferrari being relatively competitive compared to them.
That's kind of the way I look at it too, because you can't nitpick McLaren for not being Red Bull. Who is, right? Ferrari has won 2 races in the last, 2 years. They're the only team that has that, but they only have 2 wins. And that's because Max didn't finish the last one. And he came home like P6 in Singapore last year or something like that. Like, it's because an act of God happened, right? If Max's, what was it, his suspension or his brakes that gave out in Australia, if that doesn't happen, we're not talking about Carlos Sainz winning a race. We're talking about Max winning every single race to start the season again. So I don't want to dog McLaren for the sole reason of you're not Red Bull. But no one else is.
Exactly.
Yeah, but like long term, I'm thinking like beyond this year. I mean, coming.
Hey, remember, like, it wasn't long ago. Like, Red Bull was in this situation when Max was young, when they had Daniel Ricciardo. They were good for like a win, maybe 2 a year on a street circuit. Like, those are the only places they could compete. But F1 was a little bit more. That was when Lewis was dominating, yes. But every once in a while, Seb or Kimi Räikkönen or Charles Leclerc would, win a race, or Danny Rick or Max Verstappen would win a race. Like, every so once in a while, there were 3 teams battling for race leads or race wins. That's not happening right now. It's really just one team. We give Ferrari as much props as you can give them, but it really is still just Red Bull.
All right, that's fair. I think we also need to talk about the saddest story in F1 right now, and that is the travesty that is Williams Racing.
I don't think it's sad. I think they got what's coming to them.
What an unserious operation that is.
Is this defense of Katie's Canadian King? Like what is this? I don't understand. Like, Logan Sargent's on the team. You love Logan Sargent.
You know how everyone looks back now at the old Pittsburgh Steelers era when they had Ben, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell, and they think, wow, Mike Tomlin was able to rein in all of those egos and still spit out winning seasons. I'm looking at Williams and going, wow, Nicholas Latifi was able to put all of that aside and usually at least finish the race. He really was Go-Tifi. And you should be proud about that, Katie.
Thank you. Finally, someone understands.
Really
Finally. I've been waiting.
I'm 100% against Team Williams right now because of how dirty they did my man Logan Sargent. It's clear he doesn't belong in Formula One, but you don't need to be a dick about it. Okay? And they're being dicks about it. They're crying poor, okay? They're playing poor, even though they're bought out by an investment firm back here in the U.S., Doralton Capital, who has very deep pockets. It's not a matter of they don't have money. They don't know how to allocate it. We said this last week or whenever we recorded. This isn't a team problem. This is a logistics problem. This is a culture problem at Williams, and it's not going away just because you threw some money at it.
I have no rebuttal. I mean, like Katie said, they're an unserious organization. Like the chassis thing in Australia was one thing, and then of course they wreck again. I'm like, as soon as it happened, I was just like, oh my god, like.
And they're building this Frankenstein ass chassis.
It's just like this jalopy going around the track.
Their crash bill on the season, 4 races in, is an estimated over $2 million already. 4 races in, and one of them was in practice. FP1.
You don't think what, Sean?
I don't take any pleasure in Alex Albon doing poorly. I have no problems with Alex. I have no problems with either of the driver. I just don't like the team they race for anymore. So when I saw him crash on the first lap, I was like, I'm sorry, Alex, but this needed to happen. Like, all the bad karma goes to Williams right now just because of how they're playing with their drivers, how they're playing with their car. It's not good for the sport. And it's not good sport, period. I mean, honestly, like, what do you mean you don't have an extra chassis? What do you mean you didn't bring one? You're not going to have one till Miami? Are you serious?
Do you think if they hadn't once been a championship winning team that they would have bowed out around the time they sold and another team could have came in like an Andretti, or were they always going to stick around?
I think you'll stick around as long as you can because we've seen how hard it is to get into it. So if you can hold on to that spot, do whatever you can. Because, yeah, getting into it is very, very challenging. It's hard to stay in it, but it's way harder to get into it, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right, let's go back to what Katie wanted to talk about. The hometown kid. Which, by the way, I just would love to point out how much Red Bull shouts out Honda. And they're in Japan. Like you guys bounced on us because you didn't want to be in F1 anymore, but you still kind of help us. Like, Red Bull powertrains is still Honda inspired and Honda assisted, but like
I noticed that too.
All out. Like, and they win and they're like, we gotta thank the folks at Honda, and it's like they're not on your car anymore.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. It's a bit weird. You know, got to get the likes though for social media. Got to rile up the home crowd, right?
Yeah, I mean, and one guy who got a ton of likes was Yuki Tsunoda, who. He was the fun watch at the end of the race. Other than George hawking down Oscar, the other thing I think we were all paying attention to was, can Yuki hang on? Can he hang on? Can he finish in 10th? Can he get that point? Can he get that point? Come on. Home race, get a point. Because of that car, like you said, it's a donkey, Sean. Katie, you said you wanted to talk more about this. So by all means, take the lead.
The floor is yours, yeah.
I just think it's such a big story. And I think that if Daniel is racing how Yuki is right now, I think we're talking about Daniel in that second RB seat. Oh. Because he's so far ahead of him right now But because it's Yuki, we're not really sure. And he was racing against Nick DeVries, but Nick was shit. Yuki has shown himself to be so consistent and such a good driver in a car, like you said, that is an absolute donkey right now. That car is not good. It feels like when Yuki was trying to kill Daniel after the race, and it was such a big talking point of like, oh, Yuki is so unhinged. And like, it feels like that was years ago, because this race, we saw him on the radio and he was so kind and so professional and so mature. Like, it feels like we're seeing a new Yuki even in this season. Like, him coming out of that pit stop, I haven't been that hyped in a race in a long time. The fact that it was at the Japanese Grand Prix was really special, but I just feel like we're seeing a different level of Yuki right now that I still think is underrated. Like, people are starting to talk about it. I still don't think it's enough. I think he should be in the conversation for that second seat at Red Bull.
Yeah, let me run this by you, because I think there's a reason, and there's two reasons. One, I think that Red Bull has abandoned the idea of developing within, because I feel like they, if it was like because they're championship winners, like if they were contenders and they were on the rise, they'd be like, Yuki's number 2, he's coming up. And now that they're on top, it's like, now we're in this position where we're like the LeBron Heat or the LeBron Lakers, where we go get the free agents that don't have jobs, but we know can still play, like a DeMarcus Cousins, or even last year a Tristan Thompson or something like that. Like, they go get the vets, the guys that are proven winners that are going to come in and they know what they can expect from them. Whereas they don't develop guys anymore. So like, I feel like that's part of why we don't hear that conversation, because you're right. He's absolutely out driving Daniel by miles. Like, he's making Daniel look terrible. He's making us all think this is the end of Daniel Ricciardo part 2. And yet we are not looking at him as somebody who is a contender for that seat. And I think the reason is because of what he did at the end of that race in Bahrain. Like, I think that people looked at that and thought, still immature, still not capable of handling a seat with a major contender like Red Bull. Keep him there. He's still too young. It's like keeping a guy down in the minors because he's a hothead who can't stop getting in fights, during games or something like that. Like, it's that type of thing. And I feel like that's going to forever hinder him until another team gets desperate and needs to fill a seat. And I don't know if that opportunity like ever makes it any better for him there. Like, I feel like he's stuck there.
Even just seeing him on the radio, though, felt like such a different, like, just him recognizing to step in on the radio during the race and say, great job, guys. That, like, it feels like it was more of a slip up than what it is being his regular radio vibe right now. Like, that did feel like just more of a really intense slip up, and he's been way more well-rounded outside of that. Because you're right, Nick, like, that was a big event.
He's also gone on to, like you said, Nick, dominate Daniel Ricciardo. Like,
yeah,
he has absolutely put him in his 5'2" shadow. Okay. Kudos to Yuki. He is doing a great job. And you can learn from your mistakes, like I said. Like, you can grow, you can overcome. And what a good story that makes in the end anyway, right? I mean, that's what we do like about this sport, just because sometimes the races, sometimes the results aren't always optimal, and you have good storylines to follow, like Yuki coming home in front of his home country, because this is something that only F1 offers. This isn't like, someone hits a home run or scores a touchdown in their hometown against their hometown team. You know what I mean? Like, this is like an entire country cheering on one man. Okay.
For one weekend.
Exactly. So that just makes it so much more cool. So yeah, kudos to him.
Yeah, but like 6 weeks from now, are like, if say he keeps driving like this, 6 weeks from now, does the conversation change? Does the tone of the conversation change? I don't think so.
Because
if Carlos Sainz keeps driving like this.
Exactly, because Carlos Sainz. I mean, does anyone here think that Carlos Sainz is, or Yuki Tsunoda is better than Carlos Sainz? I'd like, the answer is no. So of course the narrative isn't going to change. It's still going to be Carlos Sainz to Red Bull. That's what fans like you, Nick, are going to want. That's what is going to be rumored. And I'm sure that Yuki's name will be thrown out there just as, kind of like a bait and switch, right? Kind of just like we're considering Yuki, yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, you could have 2 free seats over at RB, whatever they call it, next year. If Yuki comes up to the big boy team, you could have Liam Lawson up there. Red Bull has junior drivers still that they want to fit in. They just don't have enough race seats right now, and that's just the case in F1. Moving on, though. What's going on at Mercedes, guys?
They're putting the mid in the midfield. That's what Mercedes is doing right now.
Sick burn.
It's a really, it's a really bad day when 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton asks voluntarily if he should let his teammate pass him. When has Lewis ever said, "Hey, should I let Nico pass me? Hey, should I let Valtteri pass me?" No, that's just not who he is. And meanwhile, he's like, "All right, I'm on my way out. I'm going to a Ferrari next year. To hell with this. Should I let George pass me? Okay."
The most like carefree in the worst way of Lewis Hamilton. When he announced that he was going to Ferrari, everyone was stunned because you never imagined Lewis Hamilton driving anything other than a Mercedes. But now that we're 4 races in, every time a race ends, I look at it, even during the race, I just go, yeah, I see why he's leaving. Like, it's just like, they're just never going to figure it out. Like they're just never, their error with the side pod set them so far back, and they're never going to catch up before the regulations change again. And I cannot blame him at all. I mean, you're right. Like I saw somebody, I think it was F1 Troll, put the caption in with like the screen grab of Lewis saying, "Should I let George through?" And it said, the caption said like somewhere Nico Rosberg is throwing up right now. Like, oh my God, man. And like George isn't even driving well either. He's driving
if you're George Russell and you hear your radio say, "Hey, Lewis is going to let you through," I mean, in your helmet, you're thinking,
April Fool's was already like 4 days ago.
Yeah.
Is he going to crash me? Like, is he really going to let me through? Like, I would like keep so much distance if I was about to pass Lewis Hamilton as my teammate, because all he's got to do is be like, "Psych! Hey, remember what I did to Alex Albon twice?" With you.
Man, no, like they're worse than Red Bull. They're worse than Ferrari, than McLaren, than one of the Aston Martins.
I think they're 30-some points behind McLaren right now. Obviously, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull are running away with 1-2 right now, too.
They're a midfield team, which is weird to look at Mercedes that way. I think they're top of the midfield. But I feel like I don't learn a lot from Drive to Survive anymore. Like a lot of it is just like fun behind the scenes and whichever. But that episode with Mercedes, I actually walked out of that being like, oh, I feel like I did learn a lot about Lewis and Mercedes' relationship. Because I couldn't understand why he was walking away. I was in the camp of I thought he would retire with Mercedes. But there was a lot of discomfort with him that I was really shocked to see. And then now that we see where the team is this season, it feels really good as a Lewis fan knowing he's moving on, because this is painful to watch. And George is a good driver, but I'm also like seeing George, when I step back and look at him, like him and Oscar on the last lap, like he's become a bit of a wild card at the end of a race and at the beginning of a race. Like kind of consistently, where especially if Carlos is holding any sort of lead, George just goes off the rails at the end of a race.
I mean, that was the case at Williams too. I feel like, don't forget. I mean, this is the guy that crashed on a formation lap, right? Or under a yellow or under a safety car, whatever it was. Like, yeah, he's always been a little bit of a wild card. That time, him and Valtteri just sent it into each other. Like, yeah, these things have happened before, so. It's not fair to say. I do feel bad for him, though. Like, think about it. He was basically promised to Mercedes when he was at Williams. Hey, just stick at Williams, learn, grow, and then you're going to be next to Lewis Hamilton. You're going to be in that title-winning car. And by the time he gets there, it ain't a title-winning car no more.
One thing I've learned as an adult in my 31
Is that what we're calling you now?
Almost 32 years of life. I'll be 32 next month. Is people more often than not are going to disappoint you. They are going to let you down.
Preach.
That's not to say that you shouldn't hope for the best, but always expect the worst. And I feel like George Russell is learning that the hard way right now with Mercedes, a team that just cannot technically reclaim its dominance or anything even close to that. And now I just sit back and wonder, who the hell wants this seat? I think Fernando Alonso said it after the race but they were like, hey, what about your rumors about you potentially going to Mercedes? He goes, well, we're ahead of them. Like, we're a better team than them right now. Like, I'm driving better than them. So that feels like that would be a step backward for me. Imagine a world in which we would have said 4 years ago, Racing Point driver declines Mercedes invitation. Like, what the hell is going on in the
what
world?
A world we live
right
in now.
Oh my God.
What a world we live in. It is sad to see them drop down to a midfield team, but I mean, such is life as Formula One. We can always hope, pray, maybe one day the same happens to Red Bull. I see on the docket here we've got bad day.
Hey now.
For Team All Hot. No. We're going to skip over that. Bad day for Team All Hot. Let's check in with the F1 fantasy standings. Why don't we? For Team All Hot, that's Katie. She's in third place with 73 points. And once again, her drivers are Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo, Alex Albon, Nico Hülkenberg, and Zhou Guanyu.
We had a tough lap one. Tough lap one.
Here's my thoughts on that. I often forget that Zhou Guanyu exists. If I'm being completely honest, I often forget he exists.
It's true.
Yeah. So Carlos Sainz, I mean, really holding down the fort for you. I mean, he is dragging that thing along right now for you.
Team.
Dragging away.
Carrying you heavy back, and he just got an appendectomy, man. Why you making him do that? Nick is in second place with 76 points. His drivers, once again, he's got the all McLaren lineup with Lando and Oscar. Then he's got Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon, and Kevin Magnussen. McLaren, and occasional point from Yuki carrying the way for Nick. And then in first place, Florida man, Sean Barry. Let's see, who do I got? Charles, George, Fernando, Pierre Gasly, and Valtteri Bottas and Logan Sargent. So
you have two distinct tiers in your team. I've noticed as I tabulate the points every week.
I've got number one driver, and then absolute poo. Although if we want to call Valtteri Bottas number one driver, I guess we can.
My team's not very good either, to be completely frank. It's really just McLaren. Like, I'm gonna get smoked this year.
Sean is killing us. He got the first overall pick, and it shows.
I should have taken Carlos Sainz clearly, but I think Charles can still bounce back. They're still very evenly matched. So, yeah, that's how our F1 fantasy is going. We have no F1. We have no NFL news, so let's go right into podium predictions for next week. Where are we going, Nick?
We are going to China.
In
the words of a former president, China.
We Get his name out of
we haven't been to China since what, 2019?
Puerto Rico. Yes,
it's been.
It's a track we've only seen on replays, in our dreams, and on the F1 video game.
Thank you for, I feel seen, Sean. I feel included. Thank you for bringing that up.
I got to say, it's a hard track. Having played it on the video game, on the mobile edition,
it's a marathon drive.
It's like a hard track, man.
Distinctive sectors. After
I don't even know how to
turn, you don't even know how to go through the turn 2, 3, and 4, like that winding. Yep. And if you don't hit it right, man, you could spin. You could lose a ton of time. Like, it's very.
I don't even know who's going to be good here and who's not, because these cars were completely designed when this track wasn't even on the calendar, because it hasn't been for the last 4 years.
That's what makes it fun. That's why podium predictions, even if they are not surprising, should be a fun exercise. Maybe we should mix it up a little bit. I personally, in the F1 league, I've had some incredible races here. I've had some frustrating races. I've been pushed off the track on the penultimate lap and lost a race there before, but it is a marathon drive. Like, it feels, at least when you're playing the game, like this is a long ass race. Like, I know Spa is the longest track, but this one feels long. And I'm very curious to see how these drivers navigate this with these cars that, like you said, Sean, were designed, without this race being on the calendar. I'm very glad it's back. It's a great track. It has a lengthy history in F1, and it's a challenging track. I want to see who passes the test, because a lack of experience will show with some of the guys who were not even on the grid the last time they raced there. They're going to get a lot of time in the sim, I'm sure, and a lot of time, in practice entering the week to get acclimated. But I don't know, man. I think it's gonna be fun. I think we might get some surprises. So let's get into
it. We thought what? It was a great homecoming for Yuki. I mean, imagine what's the population of China? Like 1.2 billion, all cheering for Zhou Guanyu, the driver we forget exists. No one's going to forget him this week.
He's on my team. I do not forget this man exists. I've always been a fan of the show.
You didn't even know he was on your team until I told you he was on your team.
I know every member of Team All Hot. Everyone's hot, remember?
She actually has posters of all of them plastered all over her condo.
All 6 in order of where I drafted them.
Yeah. And in order of hotness.
I was going to say, like, please, let's not delve into what order she has them listed on, or for
I have a feeling that the way she drafted them is probably how she'd rank them in terms of attractiveness too. But that's
probably, yeah, probably.
You guys would be surprised. I think a lot of them are pretty equally hot on my team. I've got a hot team.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Maybe we save that for off.
Do you have anyone on your team that has gone full nude on camera before? No, because I do.
Sean, if the opportunity was there to draft Valtteri Bottas, you know damn well I would have drafted Valtteri.
All right, podium predictions for China. Are we all assuming Max is gonna win? Or let's count down from 3, 2, 1. Get yourselves together, guys. Get yourselves together for China.
Just laughing at Sean going, oh, all right. Transition. I'm sorry. Keep together here. All right, 3, 2, 1. Katie, you go first.
Yeah.
I have 2 Ferraris. I'm going to go Charles and then Carlos and then Max Verstappen for P1. That's my podium.
All right. I like it. A lot of red there. I am going with the man who is perfect on podiums so far, except for when he had an appendectomy, and that is Mr. Carlos Sainz coming in 3rd, continuing his streak, and then it's a Red Bull 1-2. Not because I'm a Red Bull fan, but because if there's any team I trust to make it to the end of such a race, it is Red Bull. We talked highly of Sergio Perez early in the show. I'm going to ride that wave until that wave crashes, and he's no longer. I'm kidding. I'm not going to ride it that long. I'm going to ride it this week. Sergio Perez 2nd, and of course, everybody's expected winner, Max Verstappen, atop the podium.
I am kind of thinking along the same lines there, Nick, but I just said I think Charles will turn it around. I think he'll turn it up a notch a little bit, and I'm going to say he does it here in China. So I'm going to take Charles Leclerc, number 3, and then Red Bull 1-2, because that car is just too good right now, and it's still early, so Sergio is still in that early season form. When will he drop off? I don't know, but I'm going to go Ferrari 3 and then Red Bull 1-2.
Sean, at what point are you going to get off the Charles Leclerc track, off that train? At what point are you going to to
you wanted to say something else there, but this is a family podcast.
No, I didn't. Nick, I meant to say train.
I have to root for him because he's on Team Florida Man. So come on now.
Those of you who are listening in audio form, Katie is laughing on mute right now, quite aggressively. I really didn't, but I mean, we can go there, but I really didn't. Okay, that's fair, Sean. I want you to acknowledge when we do the next show after this race that, because there's nothing going on in the NFL right now, so we do shows after races, that Charles is the worst driver of the two, and Ferrari is going to have a great future, but Charles is going to be the guy who never lives up to his potential. I'm sticking by that. You can clip this now and check it 5 to 10 years from now.
That's like a really that's a horrible futures bet. Like that's a really bad futures bet right there, man. Like that is
based on evidence. Based on evidence, all this guy does is find ways to screw up, or his team finds ways to screw up. Which, by the way, they actually nailed the strategy. At Suzuka.
Exactly.
We did skip over that. We mentioned it a little bit, but yes, it was wild that their strategy worked.
And yet he still finished behind Carlos.
He came from P8 though.
And why was he there? Oh, Katie.
Don't mind me.
Katie is ready. The rivalry between me and Katie is strong, but she is ready to throw hands with Nick. So much so she's falling out of her seat.
If she could jump to the screen, I think she would.
I did start falling out of my seat. Just ignore me right now. I'm so shocked by this. Carlos is driving his ass off right now, and I'm so excited about that for him. The team is just completely different than what we saw the last few seasons. Like, the Fred Vasseur experiment is working, and we can no longer go into a race assuming that Ferrari is going to totally blow their strategy. Like, we were joking about, like, plan E and plan G and everything before, and now you go into a race. Question. But, like, Charles, I think this race, because Nick, you've brought that up before about Charles and how we don't think that he's necessarily going to reach that potential. I thought he had a very Carlos Sainz-esque race this time, where great tire maintenance, great strategy, which again, we're not used to from Ferrari, but doesn't qualify as well. What did he start? P8? And then you kind of sneak up to the front. Like, I feel like that's what Carlos has been doing. Charles had a really, really good race because a lot of people have been having that conversation of, oh, Ferrari held onto the wrong driver, blah, blah, blah. Because, yeah, Carlos did have 2 amazing races. He's looked really great this season. Charles is still there. That team was shit. It was. Look at that car that they had and look how many times that it either blew up or the strategy blew up. Ferrari was an unserious operation for how big and serious it is. I think it's different now. I think this is giving Charles more of a chance where you can see the potential that he does have because I'm still convinced it's there. That team was a nightmare.
Hey, Nick, you know what the great thing about Katie and my rivalry? Because when we team up, run over your ass.
All I'll say is this.
There's a train coming, and you're standing right on the tracks.
If there's
butthead.
If I had, I'm afraid of that train, Katie.
The most unthreatening choo-choo of all time.
Thomas the Tank Engine head ass, Jesus. I'll just say this: if I had to choose between 2 quarterbacks, if I had to liken these guys to quarterbacks, Charles LeClerc is Phillip Rivers and Carlos Sainz is Eli Manning. And one of them's got 2 rings and one of them doesn't. Okay, I'm just kidding.
And one of them has 11 kids and one of them doesn't.
Yeah, actually, I would ride that. That's probably true too.
And one.
Yeah, and one procreated a lot. And had a cool Sprinter van with TVs in it when he had to drive from San Diego to LA when the Chargers moved. It's not to say that Carlos Sainz is Eli Manning because he's better than that personally, but Eli came through. Eli came through twice against Tom Brady, and Phillip Rivers never got there. And was that a fault of his coaching staff? Maybe. Certainly North Turner, Marty Schottenheimer got a raw deal. But at the same time, I'm looking at results. And right now, if I'm choosing between the 2, if I'm starting a franchise and they're my quarterbacks, I'm picking Carlos 10 times out of 10 because he's got that dog in him. And we talk about dog rating all the time. And there's so many dogs around the world that there's been reminders to get your pets spayed and neutered for decades. And at the same time, there's only so many dogs to enter the hearts of F1 drivers. And Carlos has it and Charles does not. And I stand by it.
What would you rate both of their dog rating this season?
Oh, Carlos is pushing like 9.
Yeah, Carlos is like a 9.
And Charles is like a 5.5 to 6. I mean, still good. Still good.
Say 7. A C.
I wouldn't put him that
far. He's a C student right now.
Like when he got out in front of that pack at the race of Suzuka, I was just like, all right, well, eventually he's still got a pit. He's going to fall behind. He ain't going to finish ahead of Carlos. Like, that's my intrigue. Which Ferrari finishes in first? Right now, Carlos is dominating. Sorry. Results speak for themselves, guys. Run that over with your train.
Nick, you got sunburned by an eclipse. I don't want to hear it.
I mean, sure. There's still sun rays, Sean. I'm still a white guy. With a history
I wish you could see. I'm recovering from a very nasty sunburn. I went out on the. You know what? I'll use that later in our next segment, which is our final segment of the night. The way we end every show: hate it or love it.
Look at this quick, tidy podcast we've done tonight.
Yeah, how about that? Well, when we only have one topic to cover, it's easier. Katie, what's your hate?
Well, those of you wondering where Do You Even Know has gone, it'll be back. Don't worry.
We'll sort it out. I don't want to talk about it. So my hate for this week, it sounds like the Arizona Coyotes will be, in fact, relocating to Salt Lake City. Yes. And I can't tell you how much I hate that. What are we doing here? What are we? Why I hate it?
Yeah.
Imagine looking at an athlete and telling them that they have to move to Salt Lake City.
That's fair. I mean, Donovan Mitchell.
Imagine looking at an athlete and telling them you have to go live in Cleveland.
Whoa. Cleveland's cool, man. Sorry, Matthew McConaughey. Cleveland's cool. We love Cleveland.
That was a horrible Matthew McConaughey, but I digress.
Bad. I've been driving a Lincoln long before anybody paid me to. Anyway,
Oh,
Katie.
it's beautiful. There's a lot of places that I think an NHL team could do very well, and for obvious reasons, it needs to get out of Mullet Arena, which is objectively hilarious.
It's
but
a collegiate arena.
Even like watching a broadcast out of that arena is objectively funny because all the broadcasters are like, "Listen, this is what we got to work with." It's obviously a joke that an NHL franchise right now is playing out of that university arena. But Salt Lake City, man, like, I don't know a lot of people that are hyped about that. There have been a lot of very funny name suggestions online that I will not repeat on the podcast.
I have a couple in mind.
Oh my God, there's some really good ones.
I got one that's alliterative.
So to fill in anyone that doesn't know, the Arizona Coyotes have been locked in what would you call it? An arena dispute for the last couple of years. Their lease with the Gila River Arena over in Glendale. What did I get wrong?
No, I just sent a private
no,
chat.
Nick put what I was thinking in the chat.
Damn it, Nick.
We were all thinking.
They're shaking it up in Salt Lake.
Oh, boy. Oh, man. If you don't know what we're thinking, just figure it out. Anyway, so the lease with the Coyotes in Gill River and Glendale, it ended a couple of years ago. They defaulted on their lease. They had to move into the Arizona State University hockey arena called Mullet Arena. It seats like 5,500. Every time the Bruins or the Rangers or the Penguins or any team with a half-decent fan base comes into town, that stadium is completely turns into an away game for the Coyotes.
So
and it's
the
a
Chargers.
joke. It's pretty much a joke. It's like when the Chargers played at the LA Galaxy's stadium.
Dignity Health
it's
Sports Park.
It is a joke. So last week, or sorry, you know what? Let's go back a little bit. Last year, the Coyotes held a vote in Tempe to build a new arena and to recreate this entire entertainment district. And the citizens voted no. They said, we don't want your arena here. We don't want this. We don't want you. And so it kind of went back to square one. They went back to Mullet Arena. Well, then last week, out of nowhere, they announced that they are going to build a new arena in Scottsdale, and it's going to be this big arena. And here's a rendering of it. Here's the 3D, model of it, and here's a 3D tour of it. And everyone's like, "Whoa, this looks really nice." This is kind of random that this is the first we're hearing about it. And then today, the news breaks: the NHL is possibly preparing to move the Coyotes from Arizona to Salt Lake as soon as next year. Not only that, 2 separate travel schedules are being drafted for next year, one in which the Coyotes are in Arizona and one in which the Coyotes are in Salt Lake City. And players are even being told that there is a tentative agreement to being moved to Salt Lake City, although nothing is final yet. Like, literally everyone is saying, we might move to Salt Lake, but we might not. And then on top of all this, the Arizona Coyotes social media team is trying to stop a cruise ship from sinking with a single wooden bucket. They are like, we play for this state, we play for this city. It's like, guys,
they're doing the Lord's work out there, man.
I would take a break if you just log out real quick. Just log out.
But so bless their hearts,
but see, I don't understand why you hate that, Katie, because this is entertaining, this is drama, and this is exactly what the NHL deserves after playing fast and loose with the Coyotes for so long. Like, literally, the meme is like, Gary Bettman like keeping the Coyotes alive, and then the Coyotes like, just let me die, please. Yeah. Please kill me.
We need to know when to euthanize the Coyotes.
Isn't this the same franchise that was under league control?
Yes. Way back
because
when,
they weren't making any money relative to the other franchises.
Get out of the market. Get out of the market.
But there's so many markets where I feel like it could be successful. Like,
they have a team.
Seattle, I think Quebec City, I think Hamilton, I think Kansas City. Like, there are markets where it could work. And Salt Lake, everyone I know is just like, what are we doing here?
I only know where one of those cities are.
Oh, because some of them are Canada, right? Okay, so Quebec City, Nick, is in Quebec.
I don't know where that is either.
It's a province. in my
You're
country.
not helping me. I know, but geographic indicators, cardinal direction.
North of New York. Like just
There we
literally
go.
go north of New York.
Thank
It
you.
borders New York.
All I have is visualization. I know where your province is.
Anyways, that's my hate.
Nick, what's your hate?
Also, just like Gary Bettman, just that's like a universal, week to week. That is a long-running hatred of mine that just can go without saying every single week. Gary Bettman.
And yet he's still like a top 2 American sports commissioner.
Bar is low, man. Bar is-
Exactly. Yeah. Nick, what's your hate?
Walnuts. I had my house inspected today. 2 cracks in the siding. One about this big, just about the same size as a walnut. My house got bombarded with walnuts over the summer into the fall, and it appears that one of them took a piece of the siding with it, which means I have to get it fixed now. 1 year into home ownership. Thanks, walnuts. And for those of you who have gotten into my mentions in the past when I mentioned this only around the NFL podcast, no, I'm not harvesting the walnuts. They're a nuisance. I'm throwing them in the trash where they belong. I hate walnuts. That's my hate.
Roast these nuts over an open fire.
Yep. Sorry, Sean, do you want to repeat that?
Wow. Good. That's what Nick says to the walnuts.
Yeah, I mean, there's that's not atop my preferred list of things to do with these nuts. Anyway.
Moving on to my hate. I know I made fun of you, Nick, for getting sunburned during an eclipse, which is, arguably very funny because it's an eclipse. I got a really nasty sunburn.
It was dark for 4 minutes.
I got a really nasty sunburn last week, guys. Like, really, really nasty. Like, I forgot sunscreen when I went out on a boat for 2 hours. I thought there was sunscreen on the boat. There was not. Yeah, it's finally, my arms are finally no longer red or blistered, but yeah, it was pretty bad actually. And you'd figure 5 years living in Florida, you'd remember sunscreen, but sometimes you just forget things and pay the price for it. So sunburns, severe sunburns.
I like to think of it as, I just got a little color, a little base.
The color was that of a cooked lobster. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was very bad. I'm still shedding a bit. So if that, and this was 2 weeks ago. So if that's any indication of how bad the sunburn was, we're still 2 weeks in. I'm still shedding a little bit.
And that's gross. Katie, what's your love?
That's why I hate it.
I hate that too, Sean. My love is, you know what? I love the springtime.
Yeah.
I love what's happening right now. I am like 30% less of a bitch as soon as it's nice out and it's light past like 7:30 p.m. There's something about me that shifts as a person because I'm like deep cleaning my place and I wake up and I'm like kind of happy and I feel like I'm defrosting as a human being, like physically, but then also emotionally. I'm just a really big fan of springtime. I don't know if you guys have noticed, maybe I'm being nicer in the chat, in our group chat. Maybe I'm not.
No, I would say yeah.
Overall, I'm just a big fan of springtime. I love what's happening right now.
Instantly, and I love that for you, but instantly I thought, wait, 30% less of a bitch, which means what's her scale of being a bitch? Like, I'm now trying to think
Is
back.
she normally at 90%? And now
I'm
she's
usually
at
running
60?
somewhere between 95 and 98.
Like, what is 110%? Like, now
But
I
you're
have to
so
think
bubbly. Like,
yeah, I have to go watch old shows now and review
right.
texts.
I
Like,
need to investigate this further.
yeah.
I'm just way nicer right now, you guys. Okay.
I got that. Well, most of our interactions with you are over, while we're live to the, internet world. So
all of us text throughout the day, every single day.
That is true, but like sometimes, I don't know, like what your last text was. Hold on 1 second. Your last text was, I'm ready too! ! Now that could be I'm ready too, or I'm ready too.
That would be a
Which
period.
one was it?
I'm ready too, period. If it's an exclamation mark, it means I'm happy.
I'm ready too, period.
Period.
Nick,
The Gridiron Podcast. Period.
Period.
I'm gonna piggyback off of Katie here. I also love the spring. It was like 72 out yesterday.
Again, what is that? What is this spring of which you
Oh,
speak?
sorry, Katie. 72 Fahrenheit, just to be
Thank
clear.
you. I wasn't quite sure what that meant.
Yeah. We're not on the surface of the sun here. Okay.
You're not.
Yeah, speak for yourself, Sean. You chose to live there. It is great when the winter breaks, even if it's like a tease. It's especially great when the winter breaks and makes for a near perfect day when opening day arrives, when home opener day arrives for the Guardians. And when that happens to fall on an eclipse, dude, that was such a cool experience. Sean saw, I posted a time lapse from the tailgate that I was at outside of the Guardians home opener. Just so cool. Like hitting totality and watching it with your friends, and then like listening to like the eerie silence as everyone just stands and looks up in awe as like the sun is completely blocked and you just see this glowing ring around it, and you're like, dude, I know it's daytime, but it feels completely like night. The street lights come on and everything. Like, it was just nuts. But for the weather to be fantastic for the whole day and the experience to be, I mean, it was a great day, like a tremendous day. And I look forward to the months ahead, because despite all the bad weather that we deal with in this region, Sean knows it quite well, the summers here can be pretty awesome. And it's especially fun when a baseball team's fun to watch, and the Guardians are kind of fun to watch right now. So looking forward to some fun summer months ahead. So thank you, Katie, for the inspiration, because otherwise I had nothing to love.
I think it is really cool when everyone collectively is like kind of hyped on the same thing.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of situations, like as sports fans you'll see it, and then in like certain niches of things that you care about, but it's really sweet when everyone in the whole world is like, space is pretty sick, let's go watch the moon and the sun do some shit. And like, I don't know, I feel like all my friends everywhere were either at like an eclipse party or like mine was a bit anticlimactic, like we were cloudy and we didn't get a lot of it here, but I still felt how hyped everyone as a human race was about that. And I think that it's kind of a rare situation where everybody's like kind of on the same team of like, this is pretty sweet.
There's also like an official sign that like summer is ahead in Cleveland, especially, that you're out and about and suddenly like 9 people come by on really loud motorcycles blaring music, or like they pull out their lowriders that like have hydraulics on them and just drive in a line down like a downtown street or something. Like, you're like, oh hell yeah, like we're
so back, baby.
Yeah, we are so back. The vibes are what, Katie? The vibes are what?
Very high. Astoundingly high.
Astoundingly. Astronomically, I might say. Sean.
You know what I love? I love the eclipse. It gets annoying when people talk about it a lot, but like, it's such a cool happening, and it is, even down here in Tampa, you know, we got like 65% exposure, but like still like looking through those glasses and seeing just like a dark like disc like covering half this, it's really cool. And what I love about it so much is it gives people an opportunity to maybe look at, you know, either science or this world in a different light. I don't know, I've kind of been getting into like science and sci-fi over the last year. I don't know, but like, don't you remember when you were a kid and like, you know, you were studying planets in like elementary school and you're like, I'm going to be an astronaut one day. Maybe someone saw that and, you know, thought, hey, maybe I will be an astronaut one day, or a rocket science. I don't know. I like these things that give people a outside perspective on the world that they live in. And the eclipse does that, because I mean, we've actually gotten a couple over the last couple of years. I know that there's one that went pretty much over the same path it did back in 2017. There was one that did hit like the Southwest last year. So we've gotten a couple. Not going to get another one for 21 years, guys. And this one is coming over Florida. Will I be here then? I don't know, but we'll see.
By then, I'll still be bald. That's a fact.
Technology changes, Nick.
Yeah, advances in modern science, Nick.
Nah, I think I'm better bald anyway. As my one buddy said, what do the flat earthers have to say about this? As he looked up at the sky.
There is something pretty cool about people universally agreeing that science exists. That is kind of refreshing these days, of everybody being like, whoa, science. I'm like, let's hold on to that. Let's like keep that going.
Yes, let's hold on to that. But there was an earthquake beforehand, so also repent. Just saying.
All right. And you just brought it back to the middle. All right, Sean, I think we've done it. What do you think, Katie?
I think we did. We still did this in about an hour and 5 minutes, even though we talked about one topic. But that's just because we're the three best friends that anyone could have. For Nick Shook and Katie Caldwell, I'm Sean Barie. This has been episode 30, guys. Made it to number 30 of the Gridiron Podcast, the only podcast in all of mankind and on the sun and the moon, since we're talking about the eclipse, that covers specifically F1 and football. Until next time, guys, we'll see you after the Chinese Grand Prix in Shanghai. See you later. And as always, live life in the fast lane.
Shout out to Terrell Davis.
I knew it was coming. I knew it. I was waiting for it.